I am a Formula One fan. If you're watching this video, you are probably a Formula One fan, or you just needed something whilst you ate your lunch. But within the big group that is Formula One fans, there are many subsections of fans. Some are completely harmless and actually pretty nice. Some are straight up just depressed. And some are absolutely insufferable.
Esti besties on the podium, baby!
But today, I plan to categorize at least the most popular types of F1 fans into groups. And then I will give them a threat rating out of 10, with 1 being completely fine, and 10 being teleport yourself into Minecraft, surround yourself with bedrock, and stay away at all costs. And when talking about Formula One fans, what better place to start than perhaps the most popular type of fan of them all, the Drive to Survive fans. If you've been in the F1 space recently, you have heard this insult being tossed around. Disagree with someone's opinion? Call them a Drive to Survive fan. Think someone's bad in a racing game? Call them a Drive to Survive fan. See someone walk into a city center, stand up on a car and scream, "I have a bomb"? Call them a Drive to Survive fan. Maybe not that one. Despite how common the insult has become, essentially losing the weight behind it, there are actual Drive to Survive fans who do exist. Thankfully, most of them confine themselves to Twitter, so the normal people amongst us don't actually have to listen to them. But they like to pretend they know what's going on within Formula One, usually keeping up to date with the current season through TikTok edits, because, I mean, who's got the attention span to watch a full race? They don't even have Subway Surfers in the corner. What do you want me to do? If you were to ask them about any race before 2018, they'd look at you very confused and say, but the series didn't start before then. Now, to be completely fair, that is not to say you can't have got into F1 through Drive to Survive. There is a unique difference. If you watched Drive to Survive, enjoyed the sport, and then began engaging with the community, watching the races, maybe even attending some of them, and of course are subscribed to this channel, everyone will know you're a proper F1 fan. But those who exclusively watch the show when it releases at the end of the season and only watch TikToks like this...
I think I'm in love with Sebastian. Any thoughts?
And prayers. You're going to need them.
Well, they probably assume whoever has the most Instagram followers wins the most races, which, to be fair, was true between 2017 and 2020. But as we all know, real F1 fans only watch TikToks like this.
Everyone was so...
Thank you so much, Whale Shark F1. My brain is deteriorating. But where on the threat level are the DTS fans? If they are of the completely delusional category, they can become hostile mobs, like looking an Enderman in the eye. But overall, they're relatively harmless and only pop up once a year when the TV show airs. So I will give them a solid 4 out of 10. The next group of fans are also completely delusional, much like DTS fans, but for completely different reasons. Mostly because it's the only way for them to cope with their depression. Yes, it's the main source of an Italian therapist's income, Ferrari fans. The only thing keeping most of us still somewhat sane, because I unfortunately do fall a part of this group, is we try and hold on to the fact that the Schumacher days did in fact actually happen, even if people like me can't actually remember it, because I was days old when Schumacher won his final championship. There is another thing Ferrari fans agree on, apart from just liking the colour red, which is a pretty cool colour to be fair, and that is the fact that in 2010 and 2012, Fernando Alonso was absolutely robbed of the World Championship. I don't care if you think he didn't deserve it. I don't care if you think it was his fault. I support my boy Fernando.
Hey, yo!
In terms of the threat levels of Ferrari fans, will we be very dangerous? I lean on the not really side, because we're all so used to losing by now that the most aggressive we'll ever get will be towards our own team. Probably because they've forgotten something as simple as the steering wheel.
Steering wheel! Claps the steering wheel here! Steering wheel! Hey! Hey! Steering wheel! Somebody tell him to give it to me!
Ferrari. Das
Auto.
Although, do keep an eye out for the most devoted of the tifosi, the drunken Italians. They can most likely be a little bit tricky, but at the same time, you're probably only going to meet them in a little bar in Maranello. As long as you're wearing red, you'll be fine. Just don't get any of them talking about F1 history, because they will go on and on for hours talking about Ferrari drivers and how much they wish they could have licked the foot of Enzo Ferrari. Overall, you'll probably be safe, but I'll give them a 5 out of 10 just in case.
Engine start, no problem. 5 minutes. Tidin, problem, engine kaput.
We're now going to talk about another group of fans, mostly made up of one nation in particular. But they are actually a lot rarer than your Italian Ferrari fans. This is the Alpine fans, or, as I like to call them, the bloody French. There is actually always a few of them dotted about in every F1 race around the world, but they're a little bit like shiny Pokemon. Consider yourself very lucky, or maybe unlucky, to spot them. Alpine fans are rare, probably because of how shit the team is. And they also swap the drivers almost as much as Red Bull, which means I'm gonna go out on a limb here and say that every single one of their fans is a French national, apart from maybe Jeremy Clarkson, who supports them because they're his local team, which just shows you how rich he is to have a local F1 team. This means when you spot them, two things will be true. They haven't smiled since the early 2000s, and they're only able to go to the F1 because they're on strike at work. The French people only really love three things in Formula One, and that is Pierre Gasly, Esteban Ocon. Even saying his name causes me Vietnam flashbacks.
The bullshit piled up so fast in Vietnam, you needed wings to stay above it.
Esty Besties on the podium, baby!
And of course, Alpine. We give Isaac Hadjar a pass because unusually he actually has a personality that doesn't just boil down to being insufferable.
Never have I ever had an embarrassing nickname.
Embarrassing? Yeah.
What is it?
Tripod.
In terms of the Alpine fans' threat level, though, they are actually mostly okay. Apart from being happy to overlook Briatore's little trips to the silly island owned by the Epstein man. If I turn up dead in a few weeks, you know why. The Alpine fans are mostly harmless, and they are just drowning their sorrows in cheese anyway. So overall, I will give them a 3 out of 10 on the threat meter. But the next group of fans are far more threatening, even occasionally known to resort to violence over fan groups they don't like. I'm talking this time about the Orange Army. And wait, crazy Verstappen fanboy who is already in the comments typing something, before you do, and remind me of how incredibly biased I am towards the British. Let me just tell you now that we will be covering Team LH later in this video. Actually, you can carry on typing the comment because the engagement makes me happy. And also, subscribe whilst you're down there. Maybe even consider becoming a member, like these lovely people have here. They get a shout out in every video because they help support me each month, and I really do appreciate it. So thank you guys. So shameless plug and general viewer discretion out of the way. As evidenced by the fear in my eyes when talking about them, the devout Orange Armiers will defend Max Verstappen over absolutely anything. I mean, Russell clearly turned in on Max in Spain. Who put that fucking barrier there? And clearly, the McLaren of Lando Norris used mind control to hypnotize Max Verstappen and send him into a spin on the safety car restart. My poor Maxi Waxy has never made a mistake in his entire life. If you think he has made a mistake, the Orange Army will not be afraid to point out how incredibly wrong you are, be generally rude to you, and in a worst case scenario, cause actual violence. This is because unlike the Ferrari and Alpine fans we talked about earlier, many of the Max fans fall into the category of glory hunters, which means they hate losing. If their driver doesn't win a race and the driver you support does, you may as well have offended the entire Max Verstappen fans' family honor. Of course, there is one group of people the Max Verstappen fans hate more than anyone else in the world, and that is the British. Now, generally, as a rule of thumb, I'd say that's pretty valid. Our food looks concerningly close to vomit, the weather's shit, and anyone below this line here is a dirty, rude southerner and can fuck off. But Max fans seem to assume every British person absolutely loves Lewis Hamilton, Lando Norris, Mercedes, and McLaren. The amount of times I've had comments saying I'm just a Hamilton fan, copium, it's insane considering the big fuck off car cardboard cutout of one of his biggest rivals I have. Peace and love, peace and love. The other thing to be aware of is that if you play any racing game and see someone driving behind you with a Red Bull liveried car, be prepared to be punted into the next plane of existence when they try and race against you. Overall, the Orange Army is definitely a dangerous one. I'm gonna give them a 9 out of 10 on the threat meter, with their only savior being the legend that is Andy Moore, a shining example of what a Max Verstappen fan should look like.
This is a try not to fall in love with me challenge. Are you ready? Hello, ladies. Look into my eyes and tell me how much you love me.
I should probably calm down a little bit before I cover the next insufferable fan group. So let's talk about perhaps my favorite group of fans. And if not for Fernando and the depressing red team, probably the group of fans I'd actually align myself the most closely to. And this is just the general racing fans. They don't have a team or driver they particularly care about. They just watch F1 for the action, for the racing, and maybe for a little bit of the drama. Everyone likes a bit of drama. Now, these people likely will own some F1 merch, but probably the merch of many different teams because the colors are cool. Generally, if you spot them at the race, they'll be pretty chill and probably say they're hoping for a safety car or just some rain to mix up the grid a bit. I have noticed these people have one thing in common, which is just a general soft spot for Williams or any underdog in the sport, and they really just don't like to see the same person winning every week, week in and week out. It's got to be someone different each time or a bit of a championship battle for these fans to be properly engaged. Which is why when Max Verstappen was winning, I was not because I like Lewis, it was also when he won every weekend. The fence sitting that can come from being this type of fan can be a little bit annoying. Like sometimes like just make up your mind, pick someone. But overall, the threat level is nothing. They're nice and chill. So a 1 out of 10. We're gonna go from 0 to 100 here because I'm actually gonna have to split the next group of fans in half because the team, or at least the fans, have become very divided recently. It is time for me to cover the Papaya Army. These are McLaren fans, except we don't really have McLaren fans anymore. I'm sure there's a few who are just plain and simple happy to see the team do well. But even the purest, just fans of the team, they have to now align themselves with either Lando Norris or Oscar Piastri. So let's first talk about the Lando Norris fans. Don't be fooled by this picture, because Lando Norris actually has a perm. I now want you to imagine every man ever who has a perm, or every person you know who has dated someone with a perm. You're imagining someone slightly insufferable. This is the typical Lando Norris fan. The product they use in their hair must leak into their brains and kill their brain cells, because they seem to have some of the most delusional takes I have ever seen. Let's all just keep it real between us for a second, okay? Lando Norris enjoys a little bit of a bottle. Ask him if he wants a glass for his Corona, and he'll tell you, nah mate, I'll just drink it straight from the bottle. He likes having a little spin here and there. The occasional oopsie doopsie moment. And that's fine, plenty of drivers do it. As Mark Webber said, if you're gonna race cars, you're gonna crash cars, and also mess up your last lap in Q3 all of the time. Shit happens. However, if you were to just suddenly stop watching F1 races and had to get your information from just Lando Norris fans, you'd probably think Oscar Piastri was single-handedly sneaking into Lando's side of the garage, cutting his brake line on his car, and sending him at Mach 10 into the wall. When in fact, they're overlooking the very key, important thing that Lando Norris happens to have a perm. I mean, it really is that simple. Give him a buzz cut, he'd be a 2-time world champion by now. So let's talk about the threat level. Because most Lando fans, they aren't really like this. It's a very small minority making a big majority look bad, which is actually the same for most of the fan groups I'm talking about, but it's a lot funnier to cover the extremes. Apart from the French, that one was accurate. So you should actually be okay with Lando fans. Just keep your eyes open for the bad ones, and overall, they're a 7 out of 10. So let's see their counterpart from the opposite side of the garage. And well, these fan groups are complete opposites. Oscar Piastri, the actual man himself, may as well have taken a hit from the bong before every single F1 race. Because since Kimi Raikkonen left F1...
Kimi, what happened?
I spun.
We have not seen a driver so chilled out as Oscar Piastri. After seeing this picture of Oscar's meal, I really wouldn't be surprised if he was permanently stoned, because it really looks like someone's got the munchies there, Oscar. In terms of his fan base, they actually kind of reflect him. I see many jokes and memes from his fan base that just reflect how chill he is, and he's just a bit of a funny guy. He likes to tell some jokes in the grid. It's amazing how chill his attitude is, especially considering the sheer amount of pressure from every angle he is facing. Of course, as with every fan group, there are weirdos who call for the capture, torture, and death of Lando Norris. Because how dare he exist on the same piece of tarmac as Oscar Piastri? Off with his head. So if you overlook your average parasocial Twitter users, most of the Piastri fans are just completely high off their tits. They're harmless, and therefore giving them an overall threat level of a 4 out of 10. I now, however, have had to mentally prepare myself to talk about the very worst of the F1 fans, Team LH. I'm sure there's some nice people in Team LH, maybe just one, but that one is obviously you if you're part of it and watching. But this has got to be one of the most toxic fan bases in all of Formula One. They are the definition of the victim mentality. Any stewarding decision that doesn't go Sir Hamilton's way, of course, Red Bull are paying the stewards off. If Lewis has a bad weekend, clearly the team are sabotaging him, because of course, Red Bull have paid them off. And if Lewis Hamilton does happen to actually do well, the car was only the 8th fastest on the grid, and he's just that good, despite him and his teammate finishing a minute ahead of everybody else. I am taking a huge risk here by slandering Team LH, because if you are not a part of that fan group, you are the most racist individual alive.
Maybe it's because I'm black.
All while they send literal death threats to a driver for a crash. How could I bring them up though without mentioning their favorite race, which is Abu Dhabi 21? You know, for a race that upset them so much, they sure do love to talk about it a lot. There could be a nuclear apocalypse. Everyone ends up all fallouted, right? You can travel 200 years into the future of this apocalypse. We're in a wasteland, and there would still be some guy named Craig sat with a pint explaining how Hamilton was robbed of his 8th world title. And do not mention the fact that Lewis could be a 6-time world champion if the rules had been followed in Singapore 2008 with the whole Felipe Massa stuff. Because you risk actually having an angry mob turn up at your house. In Team LH's eyes, Massa and Verstappen are public enemy number 1. You would need more security than the fucking Kremlin to have those two in the same room. Hands down, they are the most aggressive fans of the lot, rivaled by the Orange Army, of course. If you ever attend Silverstone supporting anyone but Lewis or the other British drivers, keep your wits about you, because turning up in Red Bull merch there, you might as well be going into Vatican City with a burning cross upside down. Even if they've calmed down a little bit since 2021, I'm still gonna give them a threat level of 10 out of 10.
Two bros chilling in the hot tub, 5 feet apart because they're not gay.
Now, the closing joke of this video was gonna be about Kick Sauber fans, and then I would go on to say they don't exist. But after the British GP, that just doesn't really work anymore. So I guess I'll just finish with an actual summary of Lance Stroll fans instead. Oh wait! They don't exist! Thank you very much for watching. I do hope you enjoyed and can stay safe at any Grand Prix you choose to attend, or if you dare go on F1 Twitter. And please do subscribe if you want more F1 silliness. That's what I'm good at. Thanks again to the channel members who support the channel. I really do appreciate it, and like I said, it goes a long way, so thank you so much, guys. I hope you have a lovely rest of your day. You can check out some of my other stuff. Have a good one, and goodbye!